Ghost Galaxy held its very first Vault Tour in Philadelphia over this past weekend, from July 7th through 9th, and unfortunately, I didn't get to attend this one. But from what I've heard online, maybe that's for the best. Now don't get me wrong, I'm super excited to see in-person KeyForge events coming back, but from an extremely janky double elimination format, to sealed decks not being delivered on time, to a controversial new type of KeyForge deck, it sounds like the maiden voyage of this new generation of Vault Tours was a bit rocky. One of the most prominent topics brought up was the introduction of Vault Masters decks, a special exclusive type of deck given to attendees of the Vault Tour. Their card pool includes cards from every KeyForge set, from Coda all the way through Winds of Exchange, featuring never-before-seen house combinations, while omitting token creatures or anything that interacts with the Tide. They're kinda reminiscent of Unchained decks, where any limits placed on the algorithm are thrown completely out the window, Maverick rates are boosted like crazy, and things get ridiculous fast. Both Vault Master and Unchained decks have a much larger pool of cards to pull from than a normal set, but the algorithm is much stricter for Vault Masters, more akin to that of a regular deck. So far, these seem pretty cool. A new type of deck that kinda toes the line between standard KeyForge decks and Unchained, exclusive to Vault Tours, and a pretty decent incentive to draw people to in-person KeyForge events, in my opinion. But here's the real kicker for a lot of players. These decks are tournament legal. This has caused some major controversy to ripple across the community, allowing these select few decks with deck lists and synergies that cannot be found anywhere else across the nearly 3 million decks registered to the Master Vault to be used in official competitive play seems to be a bad move. Going back to Unchained for a second, Unchained decks are not allowed to be used in standard tournaments, for obvious reasons. They're just for fun decks, absurd creations that, from what I've heard, will probably have their own type of tournament at some point, but aren't meant for much more beyond that. There are some truly ridiculous ones, and others that are total trash, but their whole design is that of bizarre and wacky. Obviously, Vault Masters and Unchained are not the same, but with both varieties having so much of the card pool at their disposal, with typical set boundaries between cards being broken, Vault Masters have a hint of that Unchained potential to them, which to many is not healthy whatsoever for competitive play. Especially when absolute tanks like this are opened. An 105 SAS deck with a previously impossible combination of cards. Obviously not every Vault Master deck is like this, but this isn't a deck that just anyone could have found in a display and opened. It was exclusive to Vault Tours, and that combination of exclusiveness, raw power potential, and tournament playability has many players on edge. So now, when practicing for official tournaments, you need to somehow prepare yourself for the presence of these crazy decks with card combinations and synergies that no one has ever seen before, that were impossible to acquire beforehand apart from previous Vault Tours. All of which, except 2, by the way, are so far scheduled to take place only in the US. International players will have a significantly harder time getting their hands on these decks, making them that much more exclusive. How could one possibly prepare for these decks that could just randomly blindside you at any point in a high-level tournament with one-of-a-kind combos that a very select few amount of players even have access to begin with? For many, it seems to be a big turnoff for organized play. Now, personally, I don't mind the exclusiveness of these decks. I think it's kinda cool to have special decks with their own unique twist, only accessible at certain large-scale events. I like the idea of rare exclusive product, but that's just me. Maybe there are others out there who feel the same way. But it's the tournament legal aspect that I don't like the idea of quite as much. I definitely see where people are coming from with that. Savior decks are exclusive to the GameFound campaign. They're the only decks out there with those golden borders, but in the end they're still just regular Winds of Exchange decks. They follow the same algorithm as any other WoW deck out there. Vault Masters are not like this. Perhaps Ghost Galaxy will eventually declare these decks illegal in official tournament play, which I'd think would be a pretty easy step to take. Or maybe they won't. Either way, I remain hopeful that they can work the kinks out of their OP plans, make their Vault Tours a little less of a coordinational and structural debacle, and keep moving towards the smoothest and most enjoyable KeyForge possible. And hopefully they can also get a better grasp of what the fans want in terms of special decks and their place in competitive play. Let me know what you guys think of these Vault Masters decks in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.